Hello, welcome back, guys, to another prediction video. This time about the FIFA World Cup. Yes, the World Cup is happening very soon, and it's only right that I give you my predictions. So, starting off, uh, I'm actually have some upsets in this prediction video, and I think that could happen. Yeah, they could, and yeah. So I think that we should start off. So yeah, so starting off with Group A, we got Mexico, uh, South Africa, Czech Republic, and South Korea. So starting off with Mexico, I know they're the hosts, the co-hosts of this tournament, and they have. Uh, I know the last World Cup they yeah, in the last World Cup they underperformed and played really and got grouped behind Argentina and Poland. And now they're looking likely that like they want to bounce back in this particular group where yeah they've played really well in the Concacaf Gold Cup and Nations League. Uh, I know, and Mexico, but right now I think injuries are hurting them. So first, their goalkeeper Luis Malagon will miss the World Cup after he ruptured his Achilles tendon. So sad, sad. But Guillermo Ochoa will be back and played it. Will be playing sixth ever World Cup, and it's the last one for Mexico. So hopefully, uh, he can carry Mexico to the furthest in this World Cup. So yeah. now they got some Mexico has some good players like Gilberto Mora, Raúl Jiménez, Alexis Vega, Chavez, and their defense is actually really well. Cesar Montes and someone else, I forgot, and Ochoa in goal, of course. So yeah. Now moving on to South Africa. I think they're a good, they're an underrated team. So first, they uh, they're playing their first World Cup since they hosted the 2010 World Cup, where yeah. So in 2010 they got grouped, and now they're looking like they want to redeem themselves from that. So starting off with so South Africa, I think they're an underrated team. They qualified to the World Cup after finishing first in the group above Nigeria, and yeah, and the last AFCON didn't go to plan, but the one before that they finished third place. They finished third in AFCON, and yeah, they're looking like they want to play well in the World Cup. So I think that South Africa are are a good team heading into this World Cup. Underrated, to be fair. Now, South Korea. Yeah, South Korea qualified to the World Cup. They were even one of the early teams to qualify. And I know their friendlies haven't gone to plan uh, after losing to like Paraguay, I think, and another country which I forgot. Uh, I know the last World Cup they actually surprised us by finishing second in their group above Uruguay, just behind Portugal, where they got knocked out in the round of 16. Uh, I think that South Korea right now are in a weird state right now because I know they've got some great players. I don't know much of them, but I do know Heung-min Son. They got players like Heung-min Son, Kim Min Jae, uh, who else? Kang In Lee, and some others. Oh, I forgot to mention the players of South Africa. I only know one, which is Ramen Williams, who got nominated for the Yashin Award, the only African to do so, and the guy who plays for Burnley, I forgot his name, and the other player for Mamelodi Sundowns. So yeah, and but now in South Korea, Kim Min Jae, Kang In Lee, and some others. I think that they have. I don't know what side to be honest, but I think they're good. now Czech Republic. Now their journey to this World Cup has actually been quite difficult. Yeah, Czech Republic have actually had a difficult group. They finished second in their group, and now they got past the playoffs. They actually beat Ireland, who were on form, and then they beat Denmark. Yeah, Denmark will not be playing at the World Cup for the first time in like since 2014. Wow, I think that they're having like a Czech Republic. They have like some good players as well, like uh, Souček, the other guy, Patrik Schick, Kjarci from Wolves, the center back, and etc. I think this group A is probably the most even group out of all of these groups out there. So I think that there anyone can finish first or last. So yeah, now time for my final prediction. I think, but with the home fans in Mexico, I think Mexico will finish first in this group. Yeah, I think Mexico will finish first. In second, I've got who will. I think South Africa. Yeah, South Africa. They're underrated, and yeah, and yeah, it's South Africa in second, and in third I've got a Czech Republic finishing in third, and in last place I've got a South Korea. So yeah, so that's my group prediction for Group A. Now moving on to Group B. Okay, in Group B we got the co-hosts Canada, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Switzerland, and Qatar. So starting off with Canada, which are the co-hosts. They're heading into this tournament. I mean, the rise has been good. In the last World Cup, they finished fourth, which was bad, but then they actually improved. In the Copa America, they finished fourth, becoming one of the first North American sides to 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 finish fourth behind the USA. And yeah, Canada are heading to this World Cup to play well. Well, they have great players like, of course, Alfonso Davies. He's the main man. Uh, Jonathan David has not been that good for Juventus, but I think they should go for the other guy, Promise David. Uh, Playing really well for that Belgian team. I forgot its name, and they also have Jonathan David as well. And yeah, I think Canada could actually play well. They got home advantage as well, and they might cause some problems. I mean, nah, they might be an underdog as well, but yeah. Now moving on to the second team in the group, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now, this team is actually on the rise lately. Bosnia and Herzegovina. So they finished second in the World Cup qualifying group, and they're playing their first World Cup since 2014. Then they had to play Wales in the playoffs. Then they beat them on penalties, and of course they had to play Italy in the playoff final, where then they won. They beat Italy. Italy will miss a third World Cup in a row. That is just insane. Uh, I think that Bosnia are gonna be an underdog because they've been pulling off some great fights, and yeah, they got some. We got Edin Dzeko, who will be playing second ever World Cup since 2014, and yeah, his last one as well. And he's been around lately, and I think he's actually he might score some goals. Who knows? We also got the American who was born in Wisconsin but decided to represent Bosnia. It's like it's Asmir Berkerovic. I don't know how to pronounce it. Uh, and some other hidden gems too, as well. Bosnia could be an underdog in this World Cup. Yeah, now moving on to our next World Cup contender, Qatar. Now Qatar, they are also in a difficult situation right now because the last World Cup which they hosted, they did absolutely terrible. They lost every single one of the games and became the first World Cup nation to get grouped. Wow. But then in 2024, they won the AFC Asian Cup. Damn. They won the Asian Cup back to back. And I thought they were gonna have an easy qualifying run, but I was wrong. They finished fourth in their group with, and they barely won in the playoffs. And now they're in the World Cup, which it deserved. But yeah, right now, like their only good players is like Akram Afif. He scored a hat trick in the Asian Cup final as well. And that's it, because Alomez Ali is just getting older, and I know he used to be good, but he's kind of fallen off. But I still think he can be good. Also, Al Haidos, the captain, his leadership might lead, might, could be vital for Qatar, but it's still, but Qatar might get grouped. Who knows? That they probably will. And now our last team, Switzerland, who are also on the rise. They beat France in the Euros 2021 and made it to the quarterfinals, where they lost to Spain, and they also uh, lost to England in the Euro 2024 in the quarterfinals, which they've been on the rise. Yeah, and in their last World Cup, they lost to Portugal. I know that was unlucky. They had to draw them, but they were put in a difficult group with Brazil, Cameroon, and Serbia. Brazil were obviously going to finish first, and of course they were going to finish second, Switzerland. Now they qualified to the World Cup in an easy group, because they had Sweden, who were the worst team, but still qualified to the World Cup. I'll get to that later. And they also had Kosovo, who almost qualified to the World Cup, and Slovenia, who were really bad. It's just Benjamin Sesko. That's it for an Oblak for Slovenia. And now, yeah, Switzerland might make a deep run in this World Cup. So I think that they got some great players like Granit Xhaka, of course, the captain for the Swiss national team. They also have uh, Gregor Kobel, who's an underrated goalkeeper and probably the best goalkeeper in the Bundesliga. And some other players like Brel and Bolo, uh, Noah Okafor, Dan and Doi. They got some underrated players in that, to be honest. And also have Akanji as well. Uh, so now for our final prediction. I think Switzerland are going to finish first in their group. Who's going to finish second? I think Bosnia. I just think Bosnia will be an underdog as well in this World Cup. And yeah, and now third, Canada. I'm sorry, Canada, but they're going to qualify as best third place team. And lastly, uh, Qatar. So yeah, those are my final predictions for Group B. And now let's go on to Group C. So in Group C, oof, this group is gonna be tough to predict. We got Brazil, Morocco, Haiti, and Scotland. Damn. Haiti making their first World Cup since 1974. It's been like 50 years, 52 years actually. And now let's see what happened. So starting off with Brazil, they finished fifth in the South American World Cup qualifying. Yeah, that was good for them. That wasn't that good for them. That was really bad. I mean, overwhelming, because they brought in Angelotti in like the final four match days, and they still finished fifth by losing to Bolivia on the last match day. And now they're hoping to win their sixth World Cup. Oof. Brazil, okay, They're absolutely stacked right now with players. Oof, they got some great players like Alisson in goal, uh, two center backs. Gabriel is an absolute beast for Arsenal. I know he missed that penalty for in the Champions League final, but he's still a great defender. Also have Marquinhos, who won the Champions League second time in a row. I would say their weakest position is the fullback position. Uh, I think they're gonna play Wesley and probably Alex Sandro on the left. So yeah, and they also great players. Midfield, midfield is also weak, but not as weak as the fullback. Casemiro will probably play, and Lucas Paqueta. And now, of course, Neymar back at the World Cup. He's been called up after 3 years. Oh, I feel really good for Neymar. I am absolutely hyped to see him in his last ever World Cup for Brazil. He is absolute. I've been missing Neymar after his ACL injury. That was sad. Uh, and now he's back playing for Brazil in his last World Cup. Can he lead Brazil to win that? Who knows? Uh, and of course, in the attack they have great it's absolutely stacked. Rafinha, Vinicius Junior, Igor Thiago, Endrick, also Ryan for Bournemouth. It's insane the amount of players Brazil has, and I think they could they could play really well in this World Cup. Now Morocco, the AFCON champions. They are the AFCON champions, but they just lost to Senegal in the final. But and I think Morocco deserved to win that final because uh, Senegal players actually forfeited. They forfeited the match then, which caused Morocco to win the game. Of course, the Football Association of Morocco reported that, and yeah, Morocco won the AFCON after like 2 months after the final was. That was crazy. Uh, and yeah, the AFCON, and now this team is only gotten better and better. They finished third in the World Cup, becoming the first African country to reach the semifinals, and now they want to win. They want to go. They want to do another deep run in this World Cup, and of course they've impressed over the years. They have great players like Hakimi, Bono in goal. Yeah, Hakimi, best right back in the world. Uh, also some players like Brahim Diaz who plays for Real Madrid, Enesiri up top, uh, some others like in midfield like Onahi and El Kanous, and yeah, also they've been playing really well. And El Kabi up top, he can score bicycle kicks. I think at good for Morocco. I think that Morocco could actually make a deep run, but it's gonna be tough against Brazil. That matchup, is gonna be peak. Brazil versus Morocco opening game of the World Cup. I mean, the opening game of the World Cup is Brazil versus South Africa, just like in 2010, where I wasn't even born, so I just know. Uh, and Brazil versus Morocco is gonna be a peak opening game of Group C. Now, Haiti are underdogs right now. Wow, they have been they qualified over the likes of Costa Rica. They actually qualified over the likes of Costa Rica in the World Cup. Costa Rica finished dead last in their group and failed to qualify for the World Cup. Wow, Costa Rica actually didn't qualify for the World Cup for the first time since 1998. That's crazy. And now Haiti looking to surprise everyone at the World Cup. But let's be honest, they're probably gonna enjoy Disneyland, and hope they could pull off a good fight against Scotland. But I think they're gonna lose to Brazil and Morocco. So yeah, Haiti. I only know one of their players, which is Isidore, who just switched nations from France to Haiti, and yeah, that's Haiti. And now Scotland have also been an underdog. Scotland finished first in their group above Denmark, which Denmark went to get eliminated, and Scotland they just uh, they qualified to the World Cup. Yeah, they qualified for the World Cup for the first time since 1998 as well. Now, I think that Scotland could also be an underdog. Who knows? But they have great players as well, like Scott McTominay. He's been absolutely sensational these past 2 seasons for Napoli. Uh, Andrew Robertson, who had his final season at Liverpool, and yes, some others like Che Adams up top, and some others. I think Scotland could actually play well at this World Cup. Now, my final prediction: who will finish first? I think Brazil will slightly finish first in the group. So I got Brazil finishing first, Morocco in second, Scotland in third, and Haiti in fourth. So yeah, that's my final prediction. Hopefully Brazil plays well. And yeah, now moving on to Group D. Now in Group D, where we got the co-hosts USA, Turkey, Paraguay, and Australia. So starting off with USA, where yeah, of course they automatically qualified because they were the co-hosts of the World Cup, and now they're in a group with these three other countries, uh, and USA. I know they've lost some games, and of course they hired Pochettino, and they'll be playing the World Cup. Well, in the last World Cup they lost to the Netherlands, and yeah, Pochettino took over, and it actually been quite, I don't know, mid, because he lost the CONCACAF Gold Cup to Mexico, and also lost the Nations League to Mexico. So yeah, but now America, they have some great players like Pulisic, of course, uh, Tyler Adams, uh, Florian Balogun up top, Timothy Weah, uh, Diego Luna did not get called up, which is surprising. Uh, Robinson, uh, who else? Malik Tillman, uh, and some other underrated players. I think USA could actually, they could even finish first in this group. So yeah. Now moving on to our next country, where we got Turkey. Yeah, we got Turkey, and I'm and Turkey. They've been actually surprised in this World Cup. They reached the European World Cup playoffs, and they had to play. They beat their uh, North Macedonia, I think, and then they had to play Kosovo in the final, where they beat them 1-0. Well, unlucky for Kosovo, and yeah, now Turkey are in the World Cup, and I think they're actually an underdog because in the last Euros they made the quarterfinals, the quarterfinals after knocking out Austria. They or might actually be an underdog because yeah, they're players like Arda Güler, Kenan Yildiz, who else? Çalhanoğlu, uh, Karim Artokoglu. I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah, and the goalkeeper Kakir was great for Galatasaray. And Turkey could actually be an underdog in this World Cup. Now, okay, now moving on to our next team in the group, which is Australia. Now, Australia, I don't really know what to say about them, but I know their last World Cup, they were actually an underdog because they finished second in their group just behind France, but then barely lost to the champions Argentina. But like they lost 2-1, and then I think that Australia pulled off a good fight in that game. I think they did, and now they're heading to the 2026 World Cup after winning in their Asian qualifying groups. And yeah, Australia, well, I don't know much about their players. I think I only know Matthew Ryan, the goalkeeper who plays for Levante, and I don't know much to say about him. Their last Asian Cup didn't go to plan, and now they're gonna play the World Cup after qualifying. Okay, now moving on to our final team in this group, Paraguay. Now Paraguay have been an absolute underdog. They finished sixth in the World Cup qualifiers. Well, yeah, they've been on the rise lately because after that disappointing 2024 Copa America, they rehired the manager Gustavo Alfaro from Argentina, and then they started like playing really really crazy. They beat teams in the South American qualifiers like Ar- Argent Argentina, Brazil, uh, Uruguay, some other teams, uh, except Colombia. Yeah, we were the only team that didn't lose to Paraguay, but Paraguay are an underdog, and they could even surprise in this World Cup. Okay, now moving on to my final prediction. I mean, they have great players like Miguel Almiron, Julio Enciso, who else? Gustavo Gomez, the captain, and up top they've got to go for probably I don't know, uh, uh, Gabriel Alabos or Antonio Sarauria. Uh, yeah, they also like Omar Alderete who plays in Sunderland in the Premier League, and yeah. Okay, now moving. Okay, now what will be my final prediction of group? my final prediction of group they will be, I think Turkey will finish first in their group. Second will be USA, and third Paraguay, and fourth Australia. I think Paraguay will be a good team, one of the best third place teams, and I think they're gonna go through to the round of 32. Now, yeah. Now moving on to Group E. In Group E, we got Germany, Ivory Coast, Curacao, and Ecuador. So starting off with Germany, who after they actually performed well in the Euros 2024 and have had two disappointing World Cups in a row, in 2018 and in 2022 they both got grouped, and they do not want this to happen again. So starting off with Germany, well, so they have the top, of course, they qualified to the World Cup automatically. No, I mean they were the best team in their group in in the Euro in the Europe qualifiers, and of course they finished first, and now they're playing now they're playing in the World Cup. So now they're players. After Tony Kroos retired, they have some good midfielders like, of course, Florian Wirtz, Jamal Musiala, Kai Havertz. The strikers could be Kai Havertz or Nick Woltemade, who started off the season well, but fell off. But I think they should start him. They should start Woltemade more, and some also good players like Josh Kimmich, and even Manuel Neuer came back from retirement. And yeah, they have also like Schlotterbeck, Rudiger, and Jonathan Tah in the defense. And I think that Germany have a good squad on paper, but they have to be careful and not underestimate those other teams. So yeah, and they could also have a actually no. Now, moving on to our next team, Curacao. Now let's be honest, these guys are probably gonna enjoy Disney and some other things like Universal Studios, and well, they actually surprised everyone. Curacao qualified to the World Cup after they tied to Jamaica and qualified to the World Cup. Damn, Curacao. Let's just not waste any time here. Curacao deserved to be at the World Cup because they played well throughout the qualifiers. But let's be honest, I don't know any of their players. I don't know any Curacao player. But I just think they've been a great underdog team in the CONCACAF qualifiers, and now yeah, they're probably gonna enjoy some stuff in America and enjoy playing in the World Cup for their first ever time, becoming the smallest nation to qualify for the World Cup. So good. So yeah. Now let's move on to our next team, Ivory Coast, and well, this team is actually on fire. Uh, they they won AFCON 2024, and now they're playing the World Cup for the first time since 2014. Yeah, I've missed Ivory Coast at the World Cup, and yeah, uh, their attack is actually insane. They have Yan Diomande, who is absolutely balling out for RB Leipzig, and could even get a potential transfer this summer. And they also have Amad Diallo for Manchester United, who's actually really well. And probably up top's probably going to be Sebastian Haller, the man who scored the winning goal in the Africa Cup of Nations to win uh, Af- to win the World Cup. I mean the Afcon for Ivory Coast, and some other players like Seko Fofana is crucial for them, and also they have probably probably Wilfred Zaha will play the World Cup, and also Alingra probably, who's underrated. Simon Alingra. Uh, Ousmane Diomande in the defense. He's an absolute beast in the defense. So yeah, so Ivory Coast, I think they're gonna make an underdog run probably, but yeah. So let's see now for our final team, Ecuador. Okay, they're probably one of the best defensive teams in the tournament. Yep, they finished second in the CONMEBOL qualifiers in South America, just behind Argentina. And yeah, So that was actually underdog because I think that they've also they're also on the rise because I know the last World Cup didn't go to plan. They just got unlucky uh, after they lost to Senegal, and they also uh, uh, in the Copa America they lost to Argentina in the quarterfinals. But of course it was Argentina, and now during the World Cup, their defense is actually insane. They've got William Pacho, 2 times Champions League winner for PSG, uh, Piero Hincapié for Arsenal, and Ordóñez for Bruges. They also in goal they have Galíndez, who's an underrated goalkeeper in my opinion, and they also in the midfield is absolutely it's good. Moi Caicedo, uh, and in the attack force the legend Ener Valencia will probably play his last World Cup. So moving on to my final predictions, where I think I'm gonna go all out and put an upset. So in first place, I think that it's gonna be Ecuador. Their defense is just really really well, but they're not good at scoring goals. But I think they might keep a clean sheet in every game. They've had 0-0 draws, but I think that they're gonna keep a clean sheet in every game. Maybe they might even concede 1 goal per game. It's okay. Uh, I got Ecuador finishing third. That's my opposite. In second, I got Germany. Third, I got Ivory Coast, but they'll probably make it to the round of 32. And of course, in last, Curacao. So yeah. Now moving on to Group F. In Group F, we have the Netherlands, uh, Japan, Tunisia, and Sweden. Now, this group starting off with the Netherlands. I think they've been playing well. So I know their last World Cup, they reached the quarterfinals but lost to Argentina, of course, the reigning champions. And I think the Netherlands could play well in this World Cup, but injuries are hurting them. They didn't pick up Jeremy Frimpong, and sadly, Xavi Simons will miss the World Cup after he got injured. Uh, so I think that they could have a good World Cup, the Netherlands. But yeah, so now they've got a really really good defense, the Netherlands, and for their last Euros, they reached the semi-final, which is impressive. But they've never won the World Cup in their history. Now they're looking that like they want to win it, but their defense is actually insane. And Jurrien Timber, of course, probably the best right back in the world. I mean, just behind Ashraf Hakimi. I think Timber is the best Premier League right back. And then their defense also crazy, like Virgil van Dijk, the captain, and Mickey van de Ven. Yeah, Mickey van de Ven. Just like Mickey Mouse. Funny name, Mickey. I mean, not funny, rare name. Okay. And of course, we go the guy from Brighton, Verbruggen. Yeah. And the midfield is actually also it's crazy as well. Uh, Ryan Gravenberch, uh, and Reinders, and at Cam, since there are no Xavi Simons, they're probably gonna play. Who's their other number 10? I don't know. But the attack, I think Gakpo is good for them, as well as probably up top. It's probably gonna be Wout Weghorst. So yeah. Now, and a left back, I think Dumfries could cover left back since Jeremy Frimpong is not in. But I think that the Netherlands have a good team. And now, okay. Now moving on to their next team, Japan. I think Japan are my underdog as well, but injuries are also hurting Japan. Uh, I know in the last World Cup, they didn't play well and got knocked out in the round of 16 to Croatia. Actually, they topped the group. They were like the underdog to top the group over Germany and Spain, and they actually topped the group, which is crazy. But then on the big expectations, they fumbled. That's Japan's weakness, and I think that Japan could probably be an underdog. But injuries are hurting Japan. Uh, Wataru Endo, he will just make it just in time. He will recover on time for the World Cup, but he's probably. But I'm not sure if he's gonna be fit though. And also, Minamino will miss the World Cup as well after he tore his ACL. Sad. And Tomiyasu, I know he also got injured, but I'm not sure if he's playing at the World Cup or not. Now, Japan, I think they have underrated players like, of course, Takekubo on the right wing, Mitoma, uh, Ayase Ueda for Feyenoord, Wataru Endo, of course, and Yuto Nagatomo, who will be playing his last World Cup, the Japan legend center back. I think that, and Tomiyasu probably. I'm not sure. Of course, some others like Kam- Kamada and Ao Tanaka, who plays for Leeds United. I think Japan are underrated. Okay, now moving on to Sweden. Yes, Sweden. This might be a bit controversial, but they qualified for the World Cup after not winning a single game. Why did that happen? Because of the Nations League rankings. After that happened, Matt, the they advanced and they won their game, and then they went through to play Poland and they beat them 3-2. Sad that Robert Lewandowski will not be playing at the World Cup, and I think Sweden, their attack is actually insane. They're probably gonna play a 4-4-2. Cause actually no, they'll probably play a 4-3-3 because Isak might be a super sub. But of course they got great attacking options like Victor Gyökeres, Antonio Elanga, Alexander Isak, Lucas Bergvall, etc. I think Sweden could actually play well at the World Cup, and they are capable of scoring a lot of goals. So that's good for Sweden. And now our last team, Tunisia. Let's be honest, uh, Tunisia they qualified to the World Cup, but they did. But in the last AFCON, they underperformed and lost to Mali in the round of 16. Well, I don't really know much about Tunisia. In the last World Cup, I know they finished third above Denmark, and I think that they could. I don't know really much about them. I know that Tunisia. I only know one player, which is Hannibal, who plays for uh, Burnley. So okay, now time for my final prediction. I think in the first we're gonna have a Netherlands. In second, I got Japan. In third, I got Sweden, and in fourth, Tunisia. So, yep, that's my final prediction. I think Japan will finish second in their group. Well, they could even finish first. Okay, they could, but I think I think first place for Netherlands is fair. No. Now moving on to Group G. Okay, now we're going on with Group G. So the teams in this group are Belgium. Uh, we got Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. So starting off with Belgium, I think they've played. In the last World Cup, they disappointed heavily, and also in the last year they also disappointed. And this World Cup, they're looking likely like they want to redeem themselves after those past two terrible moments for them. So I think that Belgium could actually have a good World Cup run. I know they got grouped in the last one, but I think they can actually redeem themselves with a much more easier group. And yeah, now they're players like uh, Jeremy Doku, who's been absolutely playing sensational for Manchester City. Also, Kevin De Bruyne, who will also be playing his last World Cup. Romelu Lukaku, uh, also, and probably Courtois in goal. He's probably the best goalkeeper in the world. I know he hasn't played much for the national team, but I think he is uh, probably one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And yeah, I think Belgium could actually play well in this World Cup. Now, moving on to Egypt. Now, the best team in Africa, they have never won a World Cup game. They qualified to the World Cup, and I think that they could actually play well in this World Cup because they got a much more easier group with those teams like Iran and New Zealand. I think that Egypt have a good team. In last AFCON, they finished third uh, because they lost to their kryptonite Senegal, and I think that they could actually play well because great players like Mohamed Salah, who's playing his last ever World Cup, and Omar Marmoush for Manchester City, and this other guy for who's a Barcelona youth academy player who's been balling out. He's a 16-year-old. I don't remember his name, but he plays for Barcelona. So yeah, I think that he's also really good, and I think Egypt's attack is really good, and also some other players that play for Al Ali, which I don't know them. Now moving on to Iran, let's be honest, I know nothing about them. All I know is Mehdi Taremi, who plays now for Olympiacos after he left Inter Milan last season. Uh, Now, Iran, of course, they were one of the early teams to qualify for the World Cup, and I know the last World Cup they got grouped, but the Asian Cup they reached the semifinals but lost to Qatar. Uh, and I just think Iran they might not even play the world. Right now they're playing the World Cup, but like a couple of months ago, it was like unlikely that they would play because some because of some politics stuff, because of the war in the Middle East, as you may know, some other stuff. So, uh, I think I don't know much about them. And now New Zealand, of course, they qualified to the World Cup because they were the best team in Oceania, and of course, uh, they qualified because they're like the kings of that region, Oceania. I know Australia's located there, but they're part of the AFC, uh, and New Zealand are part of the OFC. So New Zealand, I know Chris Wood and Tim Payne. Tim Payne, because I've gotten two duplicates of him in the World Cup album boxes, and yeah, I know he's been going really viral recently, but I know him because I've had a lot of duplicates of him. So I think that uh, New Zealand, they're probably just gonna enjoy the World Cup, enjoy playing at it for the first time in 16 years. But fun fact, it's in the 2010 World Cup, they were the only team that was undefeated. Yes, they got grouped because they tied all of their games, and Spain went on to win it, and yeah, they lost their first game. So yeah. Now moving on to my final prediction, of course, it's pretty obvious. Belgium first, second Egypt, third Iran, and last New Zealand. So yeah. And now, moving on to Group H. Okay, now in Group H, well, we got a World Cup favorite to win. Spain, Cabo Verde, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. So, starting off with Spain. And oh my god, we got the current Euro 2024 champions. And of course, yeah, their 2022 World Cup didn't go to plan. And and now I think they might actually redeem themselves because last time they played in the World Cup, they lost to Morocco and went on to go to the semifinals, of course. But now they want to redeem themselves and play in the 2026 World Cup and looking to win it. So, okay, Spain are absolutely stacked. They got some key great players in like well in every position. Well, of course. In goal, of course, Joan Garcia, Unai Simon, and David Raya. Of course, that is the only issue. The goalkeeper, they got three top keepers, and they're actually all of them are really good. I don't know who's gonna start though. I don't know. Probably Unai Simon. Luis de la Fuente will probably put Unai Simon's trust. So yeah. Now in the defense, of course, Marco Cucurella. Well, sadly, Dani Carvajal did not make it after he didn't get picked. In fact, not a single Real Madrid player has got picked to the Spain World Cup squad. Uh, yeah, I think Barcelona have had some great Spain players right now. Of course, the two center backs will probably be the Laporte and I don't really know, to be honest. Laporte. Laporte is a great player, and his leadership qualities will probably help Spain. No. And now in the midfield, it's just insane. Pedri, Rodri. I'm not sure if he's gonna start though, because I think Fabian Ruiz is at a good season. Uh, and I can probably Dani Olmo, since Fermin Lopez sadly will miss the World Cup after he fractured his foot. I feel so bad for him. I'm a Barca fan, and he got injured in the game against Betis. While I was watching that game, I was like, Fermin Lopez got injured. I feel so bad for him. And now, uh, yeah. So of course, and their attack is just absolutely deadly. They'll probably go with Ferran Torres up top, who had a great season with Barcelona this season. And of course, the Lamine Yamal, probably the best player in the world. One of the best players in the world, actually. Lamine Yamal, of course, and Nico Williams on the left. I'm not sure if he start because he's had some fitness issues recently. So yeah, Spain are absolutely stacked with talent. And on the bench, you've got some great players too, like Oyarzabal, uh, some others like Gavi will also return to the World Cup. I feel good for him. And yeah, Spain are absolutely stacked with talent. And yeah, now moving on to Cabo Verde, I think they're oof, the underdog story. Oof, wow, it's absolutely crazy. Cabo Verde uh, finished first in their Africa Cup of Africa qualifiers in front of Cameroon, which they failed to qualify after they lost to DR Congo. So yeah, Cabo Verde they're a massive underdog. I know one of their players, Livramento. Yeah, Livramento, the number 10 for uh, Cabo Verde, and the captain who who's like 38 years old. I don't know much of their players, but I only know Livramento. I think they're gonna be an underdog in this World Cup. So yeah, and now next team we've got Saudi Arabia. Let's be honest, I don't know much about their players. I know that their last, I mean, Cabo Verde were the third smallest country to qualify for the World Cup. And now Saudi Arabia, let's be honest, I know the last World Cup was absolutely crazy for them. Uh, Started off, they beat Argentina, which is probably the upset of the tournament, 2-1 in the opening game of Group C. And but then they lost their two games, but you gotta give credit to them that they beat Argentina in the opening match day. But I think that uh, uh, Saudi Arabia, I don't really know much about it, but I just know Salim Al Dosari and some other players that play for like for the Saudi Pro League, and yeah, their Asian Cup didn't go to plan, and yeah, they finished fourth in their group behind Indonesia, but then they had to play Indonesia again to see who would qualify. I don't think Saudi Arabia deserves to be in this World Cup because they got lucky. So I think Indonesia should have qualified instead. And now finally Uruguay, which they are in absolute trouble. I mean, no. They're in a crisis right now because I know they finished fourth in their group in the World Cup qualifiers in CONMEBOL. Yeah, they did finish fourth, but there's like I think their downfall has to be studied because they used to be really really good, but then after Cavani and Luis Suarez retired from the national team, they've fallen off. Uruguay. And now Uruguay are going into the World Cup. I know their last World Cup was absolutely horrendous for them. They finished third in their group and got grouped. And now they're the World Cup. They're at the World Cup, but now their replacement striker is Darwin Nunez apparently, and some other players like Federico Valverde is probably gonna carry Uruguay. and yeah, Nunez, Valverde, Jose Maria Jimenez, in goal probably Sergio Rochet, and also like some good midfielders like Ugarte and Pelestri. Pelestri is good, and same as Ugarte. So I think that Uruguay, I don't know about him. Okay, now moving on to my final prediction. So I think that Spain, of course, will finish first in the group. With it in second, I've actually got a surprise. I got Cabo Verde finishing in second, Cabo Verde, and in third, Uruguay. They're gonna be the disappointment of this World Cup, and in last place, I've got Saudi Arabia. Now, moving on to Group I. We're in Group I now, which is probably the group of death. We got France, Senegal, Iraq, and Norway. So, starting off with France, I think they got they're absolutely stacked. Probably, maybe even the best team in the world at the moment. France are absolutely stacked with talent, and yeah, the runners-up of last year's World Cup are looking to win their third star. So, in the last Euros, they went to the semifinals but lost to Spain, and last World Cup, they they were the runners-up behind Argentina, and now their players. They're absolutely stacked with players. I'm telling you, they're absolutely stacked. Uh, of course, they got some great players like Mike Maignan, Upamecano, Saliba, Konate, Koundé, Teo Hernandez, uh, Chouameni, N'Golo Kante, Ismail Kone, Ryan Cherky, Kylian Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele, Marcus Thuram, Desiree Doué. Oh my god. Desiree Doué, and of course Michael Olise. France are absolutely stacked, and of course they, sadly for Hugo Ekitike, he will not be playing the World Cup after he ruptured his Achilles tendon. Sad. I feel so bad for Ekitike because he was an underrated Premier League player and will be missing the World Cup. So now I think that France might actually win the World Cup. Okay, I'm doing the knockout predictions after I'm done with all the groups. So stay tuned for that. Uh, France are probably gonna top that group, right? Yeah, probably. But they're facing some tough opponents like Senegal and Senegal and Norway, and yeah. So yeah. Now moving on to uh, Senegal, the Afcon champions. Well, they won Afcon, but apparently they got stripped, and now Morocco won it after 50 years. But Senegal, they're actually a deadly team, and they love to attack. And I think Senegal might actually be a surprise in this World Cup. So, starting, they have in the last World Cup they lost to England in the round of 16. But I think this World Cup is actually going to be big for them. I think that yeah, they got some great players like Sadio Mane will have his last ever World Cup. Sadio Mane and some other players like I don't know Ismail Assar, Papa Mates, Matar Sarr, Pap Gay, Idrissa Gay, uh, Kalidou Koulibaly, Boulaye Dia, of course, and goal Edouard Mendy, and left back probably El Haji Malik Diouf, who's who's a good player for West Ham. Uh, yeah, Senegal are also deadly to be fair. And now moving on to our next two, where we got uh, Norway, which are also a deadly team, of course. They qualified for the first ever World Cup since 1998 and finished first in their European qualifiers group in front of Italy, which they failed to qualify for Italy. So I think Norway could actually be also an underdog in this year's World Cup. Of course, they got Erling Haaland up top, followed by players like Martin Odegaard, Antonio Nusa, uh, Alexander Storloth, uh, Ryerson, and yeah, I think Norway also have an underrated team. And Iraq, well, I've got a feel for them because they just had the toughest uh, World Cup journey because first they got put in the first round of Asian qualifying, which if you lose, you're automatically eliminated from the World Cup. They got put in the group. They got past that. They got into the playoffs in Asia because they finished like fifth, and fifth goes to fourth, and fourth goes to the playoffs. They went to the Interconfederation playoffs, and apparently their flight got delayed because they had to go to past the war. So they promised. So they took like a bus ride to Jordan, and then flew all the way to Lisboa in Portugal and flew to Mexico. So they just had the toughest journey in World Cup. And massive credit to them for qualifying for the first World Cup since 1986. It's been 40 years since the last time they played in the World Cup. Now, Iraq, let's be honest, I don't know much about their players. All I know is the guy from Como. I don't know his name, but he's a good player who plays for Como. And now, my final prediction. Of course, in first, I've got to go for France. In second, Norway or Senegal. Oof. This is so tough, but Senegal with the World Cup experience, I think they'll finish second. And third, Norway. It feels so wrong to put them there, but I think they'll be the best third place team to go through. And in fourth, of course, Iraq. They just got unlucky with this draw. So yeah, now moving on to Group J. Group J, where we got reigning champions Argentina, Austria, Algeria. We have three A's in three countries that start with the letter A in that group, and Jordan. Okay, so starting off with Argentina, they're the current World Cup champions. Okay, I think they could actually. Imagine if they win back to back. That would be crazy. But starting off with Argentina, they finished first in their World Cup qualifying group, and in the last World Cup, they they of course won it with Messi carrying them, and yeah, he's gonna be playing his last World Cup for Messi. Yeah, Messi has been my uh, idol because yeah, he played for Barca, and I've always liked Barca. So he's been my idol, Messi. Even though I'm Colombian, doesn't matter. Uh, Messi has always been my goat. Yeah. So Argentina, they won the Copa America after sadly beating Colombia. Uh, they also won the Finalissima and some other teams, and they were gonna play in the Finalissima this year against Spain, but it got cancelled thanks to the war. I don't know. Trump apparently Trump is doing the right thing in here in America because well, you know, I'm not talking about politics, but I'll say that for later. Uh, yeah, yeah. So Trump's doing the right thing. He wants to prevent all of the wars from happening, but he just caused the war because he nuked Iran on like the dictator, and yeah, the Finalissima got cancelled because of the war. Now Argentina. Moving on to their players. Uh, they they're also stacked with talent, of course. Of course, they got Messi, number 10, who will, yeah, he'll be sadly leaving the World Cup after this season. He'll be playing his last World Cup. Sad, it's been an end of an era, really. Yeah, they've got two number 9 attacking options, Julian Alvarez and Lautaro Martinez. That is a scary front two, but I think that Julian Alvarez can score more goals than Lautaro. Uh, of course, they got some good players in the midfield like Rodrigo De Paul. Okay, and Enzo Fernandez. I think I look like him. Hey, write down in the comments you think if I look like Enzo Fernandez? Also, Giuliano Simeone, who's been playing really well, and also exciting youngster. Uh, and yeah, they've in the defense, Cuti Romero, Nicolas Otamendi, uh, Nahuel Molina. In the left back, Tagliafico, and of course in goal, Emiliano Martinez. And in the bench, they've also had some. They have some good attacking options in the bench, like Nico Paz, and some other players. Yeah, so I think that Argentina are probably the best team in this group by far, and they're probably gonna top it. Yeah. Now moving on to our next team, Austria, who were playing their first World Cup also since 1998. They're like three teams that they're playing their first World Cup since 1998. They're back. Norway, Scotland, and 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 Austria. Now Austria, I think they have a good defense. They finished first in their group in the Europe qualifiers to the World Cup, and also, but they just got unlucky in the Euros and got knocked out against Turkey after being the best team in their group, Austria. And I think they have a really good defense. Like Leimer can play left back, CDM he can play like in the deep positions. He's underrated. Uh, and also, uh, they've got David Alaba, who will be playing his last World Cup, first and last World Cup for Austria. Also players like Conor, no, Savitzer, Arnautovic. I think Austria have an underrated team, and they could maybe even surprise in this World Cup. And now, Algeria. The team that won AFCON in 2019 has made a return to the World Cup since 2014. Wow. It's been 12 years since the last time they played in the World Cup, and of course, their AFCON, they lost in the quarterfinals. And yeah, now I think that they've developed recently. I think, yeah, Riyad Mahrez will be playing second World Cup and last World Cup. Yeah, Riyad Mahrez is a good player for Algeria, but I think he's probably going to carry them. And some other players like Ben Sebaini, Ben Nasser, uh, Haj, Amura, the top goal scorer in Africa World Cup qualifiers, etc. They could be sneaky, just like Jordan. I also think Jordan, they've been on the rise really recently because they finished second place in the Asian Cup after losing the AFC Asian Cup final to Qatar, and they even got second place in the Arab Cup, which, yeah, the rise has been sensational for them, and I think that they're actually good. So I think that Jordan could be sneaky, but here's the worst case scenario: their best player, Yazan El Naimat, tore his ACL in December in the Arab Cup and will miss the World Cup. It's just so sad. There have been too many serious injuries the last few years. So sad to see. Wait, whether you're a rival team or not, just show respect, man. I always show respect to players that get injured, even Real Madrid players that get serious injuries like Militao and Carvajal. That was just sad. Football is not just about rivalry. You also care about it, like Diogo Jota's death. Sad. Uh, I think Jordan could actually be sneaky in this group. So now time for my final prediction. In first, of course, Argentina. In second, I've got Austria, and in third, surprisingly, I got Jordan. I think Jordan will be sneaky and go through to the playoffs. Who knows? And in last place, I got Algeria. Will be in last place, sadly. And now moving on to Group K. Now in Group K, were my country, Colombia is in the World Cup. Vamos Colombia, hay que ganar ese mundial. No, 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 no. Not win it, but I want to go as far as possible in this World Cup. Vamos Colombia. Yeah, other than Colombia, we got Portugal, which is our toughest test yet. Also, DR Congo and Uzbekistan. So starting off with Portugal. Now, they are absolutely stacked right now. They have a really good team. And yeah, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo will be playing his final World Cup with the national team. I think that Portugal could actually play well in this World Cup because they have some stacked talent. And yeah, in the last World Cup, they lost in the quarterfinals to Morocco, and then Ronaldo was seen crying. Well, that wasn't his last World Cup. It will be this one. Can Ronaldo win the World Cup? I don't know. So I think that Portugal, and they also reached the quarterfinals of the Euros, but lost to France, unlucky. And now Portugal, now they're looking likely, and they're the current UEFA Nations League champions after they beat Spain in the final. Now, I think that Portugal are a stacked team right now because, of course, they got Cristiano Ronaldo, but apart from that, they got Rafael Leao, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, who broke the Premier League assist record, Joao Neves, Vitinha, Nuno Mendes, who else? Gonzalo Inacio, Pedro Neto, etc. I think Portugal are stacked with talent, and mostly when their players play for PSG. And in the bench, of course, Gonzalo Ramos is a good addition to them. And yeah, I think that Portugal could actually play well in this World Cup. Sadly for Colombia, we're playing them. So now DR Congo are an underdog. Yeah, DR Congo DR Congo they've been an underdog. They finished second in the World Cup qualifying group in Africa, and then they're playing their first World Cup since 1974, as they were known as Zaire. So DR Congo are in the World Cup. Then they had to go to the playoffs, and they impressively knocked out Cameroon, and then they knocked out Nigeria, so they could go to the Interconfederation playoffs, where they won against Jamaica in the final. And yeah, DR Congo are in the World Cup, so I think that's a massive accomplishment for them. And yeah, their players, they have underrated players like Yohan Wissa for Newcastle. I know he's not had the best of his season, but he does show up for DR Congo. Cedric Bakambu, their attack is actually really well. They've also got like Seni Mayulu, who plays for PSG, and just switched nations from French to now DR Congo, and also Tuanzebe, I think, Tuanzebe, who plays for I think West Ham, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka as well, switched nationalities to DR Congo. I think they have an underrated team, and they might even finish as one of the best teams in our group. Now, moving on to Uzbekistan. Now, also massive credit to them to qualifying for their first ever World Cup. And Uzbekistan, they finished second in the World Cup group. They even became one of the early teams to qualify to the World Cup. And yeah, they also they're in the World Cup and in the Asian Cup. They reached the quarterfinals where they lost to Qatar, and now they got some. I think the defense is just really well. Kozhanov will be playing a World Cup. That is just insane. That's the defender for Manchester City. There's also a Shumufov who plays for Roma, the striker, and some other players. And their manager Fayo Cannavaro is. I just think I thought Uzbekistan would finish third. Would finish. Would have a good World Cup, but Cannavaro, I don't think he's the man for the job because his manager history, it's not good. He's gotten sacked multiple times, and he even had a 17% win rate at a second division Italian club. And now finally, my country, it is time. Colombia, vamos. Yeah, so right now, Colombia, we finished third in our World Cup qualifier group, and yeah, we've got like some underrated. So we've got some good players. James Rodriguez will be playing his final World Cup, and we missed the 2022 World Cup because we had a that was a pretty that was a terrible team, to be honest. We're playing our first World Cup in 8 years. Finally, we are back in the World Cup. We are back in the World Cup. Let's go. Uh, I think that we might play well in this World Cup. I think we will. I'm confident. I'm really confident that Colombia will play well. So starting off, yeah, I know we lost the Copa America final, but that was an insane run from Colombia. So now our players like great. Camilo Vargas and David Ospina both battling it out for the goalkeeper spot. We also got Munoz, probably the second best right back in the Premier League. Our two defenders are probably Davinson Sanchez is an absolute stud in our defense, and John Lukumi. And at left back, probably Johan Mojica. Of course, in the midfield, I think we're gonna have Rios. I met him in the Columbia hotel. Also Lerma, and of course James Rodriguez will be playing his Lerma. And James Rodriguez will be playing his last World Cup. Yeah, it's gonna be sad and an end of an era. The Golden Boy in 2014, where he won the best player of the top goal scorer and scored that insane goal against Uruguay. And now our attack is actually crazy. Luis Diaz on the left wing, probably the third best player in Bayern Munich. It's crazy, yeah. He's had a Ballon d'Or level season with 25 goals and like 16 assists. That's more goals than Lamine Yamal and Michael Olise. Wow. And yeah, and on the right wing, John Arias was playing well at Palmeiras, and of course Luis Suarez, not the Uruguayan one, the Colombian one who plays for Sporting, who's had an insane season. He bagged 46 goals in 53 games, which is just crazy. I think he might even be probably one of the top scorers at the World Cup. Now, time for my final prediction. In first, I'm confident. I'm absolutely confident. I've got Colombia finishing in first. I know some fans are going out saying, we're not good for the World Cup. We're not good for a World Cup. Shut up. Those two games that we lost against Croatia and France, we were subbing off our best players at halftime. Like, what do you expect? We do not want our best players to get injured. Of course, we lost to them because those are way better teams. But right now, we're playing with a really good squad and a more fit squad, and with better players like Luis Diaz. He got subbed out in halftime, same as Luis Suarez and James Rodriguez. That's why we were losing the games. If we actually, those games don't even matter, to be honest. Like, I know we were subbing out, but they don't even matter, to be honest. I think we're gonna finish first in the group. I'm confident. Vamos Colombia. In second, of course, Portugal, and in third, DR Congo, and in last, I got Uzbekistan. So yeah, that is my final prediction for Group K. And now, moving on to our final group, Group L. Okay, now for the final group, Group L, where we got England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. Okay, spoiler, I will be going to one of their group games. I'm not saying which because I don't want to spoil it for you, but I am going to a Group L game at the World Cup. It's such a privilege. Thank you, FIFA. I am very very grateful to go into a World Cup game. So I think that starting off with England now, there's been a bit of drama recently for the to which England they want to win their first World Cup since in 60 years. I think that they have a great squad and stacked with massive players. I know the last World Cup they got knocked out by France in the quarterfinals, and they were the runners up of the Euros after losing to Spain back to back fashion. Now England, I think they have a stacked team. I do think that they have a really good team. England, of course, they got the best striker in the world, Harry Kane. Bukayo Saka, Marcus Rashford, Anthony Gordon, who just signed for Barca, yeah, Noni Madueke, Jude Bellingham, Elliot Anderson, uh, Declan Rice, Nico O'Reilly, Mark Guehi, Ezri Konsa, Reece James, Jordan Pickford, Eberici, Eze. It just goes on and on. Yeah, England squad is actually stacked, and with players like the midfield is especially world class. For me, probably top five in the world. You've got Elliot Anderson, who's had an insane season at Nottingham Forest. Jude Bellingham, who plays for Real Madrid. Well, I know he's not the best of seasons, but he does show up for the national team. And Declan Rice, who's probably the best midfielder in the world for Arsenal. I think that England have a stacked squad, and I think they could play well in this World Cup. Now, Croatia, they got unlucky in this draw that they got England, but I think they could pull off a good fight against them. So, starting off, Croatia. They've had two deep runs in a row. In the 2018 World Cup, they finished second place, and in the 2022 World Cup, they finished third, just behind Argentina and France. Now, in the Euros, it didn't go to plan. They got grouped. I don't know why the Euros they failed at the Euros, but I think Croatia have improved since then. Of course, Luka Modric will be playing his last World Cup. Sad to see. Yeah, I think that Croatia have a good team. Luka Modric, of course, one of the best young defenders in the world. Luka Vuskovic. Gvardiol recovered just on time for the World Cup. That is a huge save for Croatia. Dominik Livakovic in goal. Midfield, Petar Sucic and Luka Modric. Ante Budimir, Andrej Kramaric, Martin Baturina. I think Croatia have an underrated squad. So yeah. Now next team we got Ghana. Now Ghana failed to qualify for AFCON. Well, yeah, of course they weren't even focusing on that. They just wanted to qualify to the World Cup, which is exactly what they did. I think that they deserve to qualify to the World Cup because yeah, they're playing their second World Cup in a row. They qualified load of time before, but they're playing for two World Cups in a row after they failed to qualify in 2018, and then they got grouped in 2022. Well, Ghana, I think, yeah, they got some underrated players like Semenyo. He's been absolutely great this season for Manchester City. Maybe and Bournemouth. He's been a great player. He even scored that backheel goal in the FA Cup final against Chelsea. They've also got Mohamed Kudus, Iñaki Williams, Thomas Partey. Yeah, some other good players. So I think that they have a good squad, and I think that they could actually play well in this World Cup. Now, our final team, Panama. It's actually crazy. It's their second World Cup in their history. After the 2018 one, I think that Panama they're on the rise lately. They finished second place in the CONCACAF Gold Cup final from 3 years ago, and they finished second place in the CONCACAF Nations League to Mexico, where they lost to Mexico twice in those two finals that I previously mentioned. Yeah, Panama and the Copa America they lost to to Colombia 5-0. So I think that yeah, Panama could also. It's also very tight who's gonna finish in these places because I think Panama also has. But to be honest, I only know one player, which is Aníbal Godoy. Actually, two, Godoy and Carrasquilla. I know them for Panama. Those are the only two players that I know from them. I don't know the rest. So now for my final prediction, I got England finishing in first. In second, I got Croatia. In third, Ghana, and fourth, sadly, Panama. I think that yeah, that is my final predictions. Yeah, but we're still not done yet. We got the knockout predictions next. So here we go. Here are my round of 32 predictions. So first I got Bosnia beating South Africa. I think they're gonna be the underdog. Yeah, I got Bosnia beating them, and I think Ecuador are gonna slightly beat Paraguay. I think their defense is gonna be really well, and it can hurt Paraguay's attack. And also got Morocco pulling off a surprise against the Netherlands, and I got them making through to the next round. And then now Brazil versus Japan. This is a tough game to call. I think that Brazil will go through, and yeah, France versus Sweden. It's gonna be a good game, but I think France will go through. Germany versus Senegal. I see an upset here. I think Senegal will go through, and I'm sorry, Germany. It's gonna be another disappointing World Cup. Well, at least it didn't get grouped. Ivory Coast versus Mexico. I think the curse will continue, and I think Ivory Coast will go through. And now England, DR Congo. It's been a pleasure to watch DR Congo, but England got too much for them. I got England going through. Turkey versus Canada, interesting game, but I think Turkey will get past Canada, and Canada are not playing at home. Now moving on to Belgium versus Uruguay. I think Belgium will take care of business and beat Uruguay in that game. Yeah, I got. And in the next game, this is so tough. Portugal, Croatia. Modric versus Ronaldo. I think that Portugal will slightly knock out Croatia, and Croatia, sadly, they go home. Now our next game, Spain versus Austria. Easy, I think Spain goes through. Switzerland, Norway. I think that Norway are gonna pull off the upset and surprise Switzerland. Yeah, I think Norway can pull it off. And now Argentina versus Cape Verde. Sadly for Cape Verde, I think the dream ends here for Cabo Verde, and Argentina go through. Colombia, Ghana. We gotta win this. Vamos Colombia. Colombia go through to the next round by beating Ghana. And finally USA. I think USA will beat Egypt. Sadly, Mo Salah goes home. Now round of 16. Ecuador was France. I think the Ecuador's run ends here. France will punish their defense. France win this game. Yeah. And now Bosnia versus Morocco. Can Bosnia pull off a surprise in this? I think sadly no for Bosnia. Bosnia will have an underdog, but Morocco goes through. Brazil versus Senegal. Senegal has beaten Brazil multiple times in the past, but I think Brazil here will get the revenge, and Senegal will go out. I think Brazil will win this game. And moving on to Ivory Coast, England. Ivory Coast could pull off a surprise, but I think England are going to beat Ivory Coast and move on to the quarterfinals. Now, we got one of the biggest games. Imagine that if it happens. Portugal, Spain. I think that Spain will slightly go through, get past Portugal, and Ronaldo's World Cup dream will end here, sadly, for Portugal. For Turkey versus Belgium, I see an upset here. I think Turkey will beat Belgium, and Belgium goes home in the round of 16. And now USA against Argentina. Argentina takes care of business of USA. And yeah, now moving on, Norway versus Colombia. This is a tough game to predict. I think that Colombia, I think we're gonna beat Norway. Barely. Okay, it's gonna be tough. Now, quarterfinals, France against Morocco. I think that, repeat of the quarterfinal. Yeah, France wins. Spain against Turkey. The dream ends here for Turkey. I think Spain will beat them. Brazil, England. It's gonna what a difficult game to call. Both teams are insane. If this happens, this will be a big game. I think Brazil will sadly go through and England go home. And Argentina, Colombia. Sadly for Colombia, mi país, our dream ends here. And as we lose to Argentina, I think quarterfinals is good for Colombia. I think that's good for us. And yeah, now moving on to the semifinals. Semifinals. France, Spain, a repeat of the Euro 2024 semifinal. Can France get the revenge? No, I'm sorry. I think Spain go through. And now, an all South American battle. These two semifinals, if they happen, it's gonna be big. Brazil against Argentina. I think Brazil are gonna get the revenge against Argentina after not beating them in a very long time. So that means I have the final as Spain against Brazil. And who will win this final? I think that Spain are going to be World Cup champions and win the World Cup. So if you like this video, hopefully Spain wins the World Cup. And yeah, I think Spain will win the World Cup. And yeah, If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, and yeah, we'll see you for the World Cup.